I was down, chat. I was down, but now I'm up. I want to talk about today kind of how I went from being in drawdown, being in a kind of just weird place mentally. My account's in the red. I'm in drawdown. What am I going to do? How do I survive? How do I get back? I want to talk about some tips, some things that I applied over the last week or so that I feel like have really helped me kind of get out of drawdown, get out of that spot that I was at mentally, and now get back in the green. First thing that I want to point out, the first rule, the first thing that I 100% I can't guarantee, but I will promise you it will help you if you do this one very simple thing, right? And, well, very simple thing is keep a very close eye on the hourly chart. Wow. I know, I just blew your fucking mind, right? Check out the hourly chart here the last week or so, and you can see clearly what are we doing. We had this low here. We're putting in higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. The trend is up. The trend is up. So what does that mean? Well, when the trend is up, when the higher time frame is showing us that the market wants to go higher, what do? I only look for long opportunities. I want to be trading with the trend. Why is this a massive benefit? Well, number one, let's say I get into a trade. Let's say, look at the 5-minute chart here, 2-minute chart, whatever it is. Look at the 2-minute chart here. Now, let's say I get into a trade on Friday. And I don't know, let's say I get in, trying to think about where I might have bought. Like, let's say I get in right here. Let's say I get in here in this area. All right, and I'm like, oh, damn it, I got in. I bought the top. Well, the good thing is, number one, the trend is still pushing up. So I know that, like, hey, if I'm getting long, I might not get the best entry ever. I might not have the best entry here. But at least the trend is up, so I can survive a little pullback and then that move higher. Whereas if I'm shorting, let's say I get short right here, thinking that it's going to pull back, and then it goes higher. Well, I can't survive this, right? I can't just keep holding and praying and hoping and praying because, well, the market just kind of keeps going higher there, and that's going to squeeze me out, 200 points. So, again, guys, the trend is your friend. You don't need a course. You don't need a book to understand that. It really makes trading so much easier when you're working with the trend. Now, I know you're looking at this chart and you're like, well, Patrick, you could have got short right there and made money. Yeah, but what, at the bigger picture is the king, right? Yes, you can, make a couple little shorts here and there. But when the overall higher time frame, when everything's pointing higher, what's your best plan? What is the best thing for you to do as a trader? It's to trade with that, to look for those pullbacks. It's much easier to buy a pullback when we're trending up, much easier to buy a pullback than it is to short and hope that it keeps going lower and lower. So that's one thing that I've really focused on over the last week or so. I'm like, look, let's just focus on getting in with the trend, looking for those bull flags, looking for good setups, taking profit, riding that momentum, right? Ride that momentum, stay with the market. Don't try to pick the top. I saw a lot of traders over the last week who kept trying to pick the top. And what happens? If you keep trying to pick the top, at a certain point, you're going to blow up and you're going to lose it. So stay with the trend. That hourly chart, I cannot stress how important it is to really dive into that hourly chart. Believe in that hourly chart. Look at that hourly chart and be like, hey, just because the market's pulling back here overnight does not mean that we're bearish, right? It doesn't mean that we're going to crash down. It means that, hey, we're consolidating. When the market's consolidating in a bullish momentum market, when the market is pulling back and consolidating, that is a bullish move, right? We pull back, we break out. We pull back overnight here, we break out. So why? Well, number one, the market moves in waves, right? You get this kind of push, and a little gap up there, a little weird. But it's basically just like this, right? Like that's how the market's moving. It's up, it's pulling back, it's up, it's pulling back, it's up. Maybe it pulls back here. But that's pretty much how the market moves, in waves. Ride the wave, baby. Surf the wave. Get in, get out. Now let's talk about the nitty and the gritty, the money, right? Everybody wants to know, but Patrick, did you make any money? So here, I have $111,000 in my live account with Optimus Futures. This is a real broker. This is not a prop firm. This is not anything, it's just real. It's funny because I have to explain that. Hey, this is a real money broker, real money futures account. Now, you can see yesterday I made $17,000 profit and loss yesterday, right? And the big thing for me, what am I focused on? I'm focused on trading. Basically, with this account, I'm only really trading on the 5-minute chart. I know that sounds crazy, but we'll talk about that here in a second. Just wanted you guys to see this is kind of what we got going on. If we look over the last 7 days here, well, looks real good. I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, hey, we made some money this week. We had a couple little drawdown points, kind of in trades, maybe in drawdown, whatever it is, getting stopped out. But again, trading with that overall momentum, overall trend, and locking in that profit. So we started out Monday there and just kind of grinded it up there. Nice little move. You can see $64,000 total P&L last week. But Patrick, I thought you hated trading. I thought you were in drawdown. I thought you're never going to make it back. Well. Again, what was the big thing this last week? Number one, the market was moving, right? It was real good. We had some really good setups. Everything was looking gravy. Another thing that I really focused on this week, just keeping an eye on that 5-minute chart, right? If I'm looking at the 5-minute chart and I'm like, okay, what do we got here? We got some resistance. We got some resistance. We got some support. We got some support. Whoa, hold on a second, right? We're putting in that higher low. I cannot stress enough the fact of hey, really trying to analyze these charts and looking at it from not just this perspective where you're all, let's say you're looking at the, the 1-minute chart and people get so caught up in this. They get caught up in this 1-minute chart. I mean, I do the same thing. But you get caught up in it and you're looking at it. And you're oh, you get so just focused on this. This is what a lot of people are looking at. They're looking at this right here and they're man, okay, I'm going to short if we break below this low. If we break below this low right here, I'm going to get short. And then what happens? It then rips up. I mean, this is a story of my life sometimes. I do this kind of crap where it's I miss out on the bear flag, and then I'm I FOMO in, then I try to short down. I don't know. The big thing, again, that bigger time frame, right? Looking at the 5-minute chart, it's a much cleaner, simpler, clearer picture of what is really going on. If I look there at the 5-minute chart compared to the 1-minute chart, I'm wow. Yeah, no, that's a much different looking chart, right? This is a much different looking chart when I look at the 5-minute chart, because now I'm hey, hold on a second. We clearly got some support right here. We put in a higher low, got these lows down here, we got this there, but I can see the actual picture of what's going on. If I go to the 15-minute chart, same thing, right? 15-minute chart, much cleaner, kind of understand hey, look, we're just kind of stuck. When I see the 15-minute candles all kind of overlapping here, I'm oh, okay, let me just stay out of this for now. I see all that support down there. I'm yeah, no reason to get short down here. And then we get this breakout here, and I'm whoo, buddy, look at that. We can look at that push. Push. Off of yesterday's close there as well. So yesterday's close or the previous day close, that dotted line, very important level. See where we are, right? Are we above yesterday's close? Are we below yesterday's close? What are we doing in terms of opening up here on this new beautiful day in paradise? Is the market above the previous day close or above, or below or above? And then that way I'm also thinking okay, price-wise, like what's going on? Is there a better chance we fill that gap? Do we push back up? And all that fun stuff. Again, we had some really good momentum. I mean, that also could be a good kind of thing, right? The market's moving. We're getting good breakouts, continuation moves. We're not getting a lot of chop. That right there, what does that prove? Well, it makes it a lot easier to trade. So again, that higher time frame, focusing on that, seeing on the higher time frame, the trends, seeing on the higher time frame, the cleaner moves, the bull flags, the bear flags. That's all we're simply trading. We're not overcomplicating it. We're looking at previous support, kind of that previous resistance. You know, the overnight highs are always really great targets. If we open up and we're kind of at the low, well, it kind of makes sense that, hey, where do we push to next? Well, we could push up to that overnight high and test that level, which we ended up doing. I mean, it happened multiple times this week. Here, we had that low. Where do we go from there? Well, we took out the overnight high. All right, we took out the overnight high, and then we took out the previous day high. Because, again, remember, we're looking at the daily chart here. The daily chart is where the market's moving, where it's going. I'm looking at the previous day's action, like, okay, you know, if we're above this level, if we're above this high on that daily chart, look, we push, bang, bang, bang. So I think the real moral of the story, like always, is very much being aware, right? Being aware of those bigger time frame kind of, I don't want to say deliverables, but does the market want to push up to a previous level on the higher time frame? Does that give me a good setup on the smaller time frame? And that's kind of how I'm thinking, like, hey, on the daily chart, we kind of have this high here. If we push above that, I'm looking for a long, for a break. You know, where can we go from there? And kind of just breaking it all down, looking at that hourly chart, looking at the bigger time frames, so that way I can have a better understanding of, like, if I'm getting in on a smaller time frame trade, where is my target based on the higher time frame? So let's say, just for example here, I'm looking for a breakout. We break out there from the 392s, kind of like through there. Well, where's my target? My target's this overnight high there. So if we go to the 5-minute chart now, we can see, like, hey, you know, what do we got going on? Again, we're kind of, I know this is like in hindsight, but during the trading day, kind of how we're thinking about it is like, hey, we couldn't make a new low. We're putting in higher lows. We're getting very tight right here. You can see how it's getting very tight, right? We had this big kind of move down. We push back up. We put in kind of that half of that pullback here, if that makes sense. Like if you know, put on there like the fibs, where we kind of pull back into the middle of the fibs there. And at that point, well, let me hold like this. Sorry, hold on. Be like this. La 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 la, right? I'm an idiot. Hold on. Fibonacci's. So like from this low to there, whatever you want to, however you want to do it. Boom. So we kind of pull back into that 618, that golden pocket level there. We push back up. We break out. Not that I'm a Fibonacci trader, but again, now I'm like on the 2-minute chart and I'm looking at this like, okay, this is kind of my setup here. I'm looking for a long out of this area. We're holding up here. We're getting that breakout. There's my push. So here's my entry on that smaller time frame right there. Now I go again. Remember, we had the bigger time frame kind of targets there. Our bigger time frame target is the high over the overnight. So from the 369s, it's like, hey, I might not hold for that whole move, but at least I know like there's a good chance that the market's going to push. It's going to give me a way to get in, give me a way to get out, to lock in my profit, to make the money, and then call it a day. That's kind of the thought process there. Smaller time frames for my entries, the bigger time frames for my exits. Or again, it's not like I'm trying to get that whole entire move, but at least I'm like, hey, we got a lot of room, right? We got a lot of room to that next resistance. So I'm like, I got 100 points that I can kind of play with there. Like even if I get 30 points, I'm still happy because I was able to identify that setup. So that's kind of the breakdown. Higher time frames is where the market is driving to, where the market is going. The smaller time frames kind of give us those entries, and then we're looking for that move. Again, you know, the 15-minute chart, the pivot points, you can see the pivot points. Market's been very big ranges lately, so the pivot points haven't really been massive. But again, the EMAs, the opening range breakout, let's put it down. Like this is kind of like my go-to setup right now. What do I got? I got the Lux Algo opening range break and targets on there. I've got the 21 EMA. I've got the 9 EMA. I've got the pivot points on there. Bang, baby. Check out the opening range breakout. Remember, this is funny too because I showed you this like setup before we even had the indicator on there for the opening range. And as you can see, this is the 15-minute opening range. We break out from here, bang. The 15-minute opening range turns into support here, double bottom, the push, the move, the action. And again, let me look. Let me look. Let me look. Let him cook. Let him cook. Check this out. That EMA, the 9 EMA, the 21 EMA, guess what? They crossed. They crossed right there at the 350s. Oh my God, Patrick, what? It's witchcraft. And look at them bad boys. From the 350s all the way up there to the 550s before they ever crossed again. What a time to be alive. When the trend is going, when the trend is your friend, it makes your life so much easier. So there it is. Absolutely, I don't want to call it a comeback, but I mean, from just like constant kind of not feeling like I was in the zone to coming back this week and feeling very much like I'm in the zone. Pretty happy with that and making that big move up. And you can see that P&L there. At the end of the week. Beautiful. What a move. What a time. It's happening live here on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button. If you guys haven't already hit that like button, well, do it because it helps me help you. There it is. Peace to the Middle East.